Hello, welcome back to my channel, guys. If you don't know me, I'm Bethany, and I would love to have you in our family if you want to subscribe and join. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing some of the ways that help me grow closer to the Lord. As someone who used to be a lukewarm Christian and now lives a life for the Lord, I can't not share these things that help me grow in my relationship with the Lord. So let's just get right into it, guys. I'm very much a list person, so I wrote down a lot of things that I just want to share with you. So number one, starting off, the biggest thing that helped me grow my relationship with the Lord was prayer. And I mean being intentional and consistent with it. One of the biggest things that helped me was just literally praying throughout the day. So whether that be just in moments of silence when I'm alone, speaking out loud to the Lord, or even just in my head while I'm at work or while I was at school, those types of things, like you can be in constant communication and communion with the Lord. And I think we take that for granted. So I feel like it is so important to be in conversation with the Lord and be consistently speaking to Him. Another thing that I did to help with prayer was I started a prayer journal, and I think I've had like 3 or 4 since I started, but it has been one of the most effective things because it's like you can literally pour out your heart to the Lord. And sometimes you start writing things that you don't even realize you were thinking about or feeling, and you're like, wow, I'm so glad I gave this over to the Lord. Another thing that I started doing like a couple years ago to help me pray for other people more consistently and more intentionally was set up a little prayer area. So at my house back in Missouri, I had my closet as my little prayer area, and I just put post-it notes up of everyone's prayer requests and different verses. Right now in the house that I'm at, I actually am kind of sitting in my prayer area. It's just like up on the walls, but I just have these little areas where I put post-it notes, pictures of the people that I love, and things that I need prayer for that are more like big prayers that are going to take a while, and then also just Bible verses that really encourage me and ones that I want to meditate on and memorize. So this is a big thing that helped me a lot in my prayer life, especially whenever it comes to praying for other people. So I highly recommend starting just like a little designated area. It could be anywhere, where you just pray and you pray for other people and you're really intentional about it. And along with prayer, I feel like it's so important to listen to what the Lord has to tell you. He can speak in many ways, but the biggest way that He speaks is through His word, the Bible. So I consistently read my Bible every day, and it wasn't easy whenever I first started this, but once you're consistent with it, it's a habit and you can't go a day without doing it. And there are going to be days where you don't feel like it. You're not always going to feel like that fire and passion for the Lord, but it is important to stay disciplined and do it even whenever you don't feel like it. So if you're looking for recommendations on what to read and where to start, I would start with the Gospels. And people will tell you this because it is just the story of Jesus and how He saved the world and His existence on earth, His disciples. All of it is so important. Whenever you read the Gospels, you will read things in the Old Testament and it will all start to make sense because it all lines up with what the Lord did through Jesus's death and His resurrection. So that is just my recommendation. I recently started reading through the whole New Testament, and then I'm going to read the whole Old Testament because I just want to be able to make those like connections with both of them and see how the Lord's promises came true in Jesus. If reading like a whole book at a time is just overwhelming, I would recommend starting with a devotional and just reading a devotional, and if it has Bible verses, read the Bible verses, look them up in your Bible and study and meditate on them. And even just reading the whole chapter of the Bible verse can help you put things into context of what it was like in the Bible time. So that's also really good. I have quite a few different divas. I am currently reading through this one as well as like reading through the New Testament, and this is called How to Put Love First by Sadie Robertson Huff and Christian Huff. They wrote it together. So far it is really good. I'm about halfway through. Another really good one that I recommend is The Joy of the In-Between by Ashley Hetherington and Jesus Calling. Those are like my top devotionals that really impacted my faith in a good way. Next is worship, and I feel like whenever people hear worship, they just picture standing in a church service and just like singing hymns and not really having any meaning behind it. I will say worship in the church is important and it is good, but it doesn't just have to be in the church. One thing that I did that really helped with worshiping the Lord was instead of listening to like secular music whenever I wanted to, I would instead listen to worship music. And worship music doesn't have to be boring, quote unquote. I love all worship. I don't think any of it is boring, but it doesn't have to be boring. There are so many different artists who are creative and unique with the music that they make. Some more like upbeat artists that I really like are Forrest Frank, people like Holby, KB, Lecrae, just all of these different artists that kind of sound more like our music today, but they turn it into worship. I love Josiah Queen also. That's the name that I could not remember. Yeah, just swapping out secular music for worship can have a huge effect on your faith life and your relationship with the Lord, because it's about like what you're taking in and it's more centered around Jesus than the world. Another thing to keep in mind is that everything you do can be an act of worship. I'm pretty sure it's 1 Corinthians 10:31, and I don't remember the whole verse, but I do remember part of it says, "So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God." Everything you do should glorify God. Everything you do should be an act of worship towards the Lord, because He blessed us with the ability to literally exist, to live, to walk, to talk, to exercise, eat good foods. All of this was a gift from Him to be able to experience and enjoy, and it is so important that we give back to Him through worship and glorifying Him in everything we do. So even your work and your school can be used as a way to glorify God, and the way that you do that is by doing your best and trying your hardest in all of these areas and doing what you can to ultimately exemplify Christ and also bring glory to His name. Another thing that helped my relationship with the Lord was going to church, and I know that this can be a little bit of a sore spot for some people because they look at church as kind of like a bad thing and like a super religious, not amplifying like a relationship with the Lord. I believe that having a relationship with the Lord is important. That's number one, but also having that community and having church can help you grow your relationship with the Lord. You can also learn so much if you are at a church that truly knows the Word and knows the Lord, and their sermons reflect that. You can end up learning so much, and also just being in community is so good, because being around people who are like-minded and are chasing after the same things as you, it's going to encourage you, it's going to help you grow, and that is what is important. Also, just being able to worship with other believers is just such a beautiful thing, because it is truly a glimpse of what heaven is. We're praising the Lord constantly whenever we're in heaven, and it's just a beautiful picture of what that is going to look like, just the smallest glimpse of what it will look like. Another thing I would recommend for growing your relationship with the Lord is tapping into like other resources. So there are plenty of podcasts, books, and shows that are really good and help with like growing your relationship with the Lord. As far as podcasts go, I love Sadie Robertson's Well That's Good podcast. I love Alios, Christ with Coffee on Ice, and also Maddie Pruitt's podcast, Stay True. And there's definitely a few other ones out there that are really good that I would recommend for you guys. As far as books go, I love all of Sadie Robertson's books. They're all really good. I love C.S. Lewis if you're thinking more deep and theological. Those are really good. And the last thing that I put on this list was to just think about what you're consuming. On social media, sometimes we literally don't even think about it whenever we're scrolling. We don't realize how much we're taking in and what we're taking in. So it's important to go through who you're following and what you're allowing into your brain, because ultimately it does affect your soul and your heart. And we don't want anything that's not from the Lord to have a big effect on us. So it's important to do what you can and try to avoid as much as possible stuff that is not good for your soul. Not even just social media, it's with shows and movies, books, music, relationships, all of it. You just want to guard your heart and not be rude, not be stingy towards people, but ultimately just make sure that you are putting Christ above everything else and trying to think of things that are pure and lovely and righteous. But yeah, guys, that is all that I have for you today. I hope that this video was helpful and encouraging to you guys. And just know, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. You can always comment. I also will leave my social media handles in the caption, and then I will also add my email as well if you want to reach out. But yeah, I love you all so much, and I hope you have the best day, the best week, the best month, the best year, and just know you are so loved. I will see you in the next video.